So this one will be hard to talk about because I try not to hate on anything, and I didn't think this is the worst movie ever, but The Haunting of Sharon Tate is a movie that came out where it is directed by Daniel Farrens, who did a lot with Halloween 6, which I did like his stuff in Halloween 6, and it stars Hilary Duff, who, if you are my age, you know who she is, and you know who. Like, I grew up just seeing her being relevant in the time period I was a kid, and I even watched like that show Lizzie McGuire. I thought that was a pretty funny show. But she was a popular singer and Disney actress, and she has really disappeared in terms of acting for a while. I haven't seen her in a long time, but she stars in this movie as Sharon Tate, who in this film, Sharon Tate apparently has psychic experiences and visions of her inevitable death. And there was a real life interview that Sharon Tate did actually say this apparently, but I think it's only one interview, and I think she might have just said it in a way where it's not like she had a lot, like it's not like it really happened a lot with like her imagining her dying, but like just the idea of this movie is kind of ridiculous. And the thing I'm going to say about this movie is it's not good. It's bad, but it's not like a movie that I was angrily hating the whole time. There were a couple moments where I did really not like it, unfortunately. And I really hate to shit on Daniel Farrens because I did like his other thing that he did with Halloween 6. And he might have done other stuff, but that's the only thing I can think of on top of my head. But he seems like a nice person, and I don't want to shit on a movie, but like, man, I didn't like this one, and I hate to be negative. Like, I didn't hate it. I really didn't. I think it was just not good, but it wasn't like frustratingly bad. Like, there were only a couple moments where I was kind of angry, but for the most part, it was just kind of a boring mess. Or not a boring mess. It was just kind of like a boring movie that didn't have much going for it because the acting isn't great. Like, Hilary Duff isn't a great actor. She's fine, but she's not like her accent keeps falling in and out in scenes. And I hate to be negative for all these reasons, but man, I guess I got to speak my mind. But I hate being negative. And this movie has this terrible set of dialogue where it's like she keeps having visions of her inevitable death, and the dialogue is very mediocre dialogue where it's like them talking about destinies and like changing their destiny, and it's just so on the nose that it's just kind of obnoxious where like they keep mentioning like what if we are in charge of our own destinies, and that is basically a line from this movie where the dialogue is so simple and plain and not good writing. And it's unfortunate because it's like this idea of this movie, while people don't like this movie, and I'm not really a fan of it either, I think that it does have some interesting merits. Like, I do like the fact that this, as I review this, I'll tell you later, it does change up. It becomes fictional in the movie. Like, it's got real life things, but it becomes fictional. So, and also because I just saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was an easily better movie than this, it makes it even less of a good movie, this movie, for me, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Margot Robbie did a fantastic job as Sharon Tate, and the way they did that in that movie, it wasn't distasteful. Because the distastefulness in this movie, the only thing that really did piss me off in this movie is that these are real life people that were murdered in real life, and they were murdered in real life, and this movie reenacts these people getting murdered in real life again in the movie. And to me, that just seems so unfortunate that like they have to reenact it in a way where it just seems very insulting to the people who actually died in real life and were really murdered. Like, I understand if it was like a fictional movie where like people die, but this becomes like a supernatural or a psychological kind of slasher because like she keeps showing herself getting killed, but it's just so unfortunate that it shows the real life murders, like them being murdered these real life people. Like, they reenact the murders, and to me that's just so distasteful because these people actually died in real life. I think that's really insulting that you have to watch real life people get murdered. And to be fair, I might be hypocritical and might have liked other movies that have done this too, with real life people getting killed and not even realize that. So I might be hypocritical in that sense, but to me, this movie, like, that's the only thing that really made me mad was like they did reenact the murders of like these people who were really murdered in real life. They actually were killed, and they reenacted them getting murdered brutally in the movie, and that to me just seemed very distasteful. And also, it's got those generic jump scares in this movie. This movie is so mediocre in so many ways because the dialogue is so dull and mediocre on Destinies and on the easy lines that you hear in every movie that relates to like Destinies. Like, the writing is so generic and bland, and it's just unfortunate. And also, it's got the stupid jump scares where they make dumb jump scare noises the whole movie, where it's so cheap and so lazy that it's just so insulting. And then she starts seeing things. Like, she opens the fridge and she sees a dead animal in the fridge, and she's like, look at this, look at this. And like, the people come over, her friends come over and look, and then there's nothing in there. She's imagining this. And they have those cheap jump scares and cheap like sequences that are like dream sequences of her getting killed and then waking up. Stuff like that. It's just so like lame. This movie is very lame in a lot of aspects. And then there is a scene where, of course, it's just another set of dialogue that's just so incredibly, so like, there's nothing creative or inventive with this dialogue, because there's a scene where Sharon Tate's talking to this guy who she's like, oh, you could create something, like, you're doing good, and he's like, who, me, a small town kid from blah 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 blah. It's that dialogue where it's just, you hear it in every movie. It's so lame and so bad dialogue wise. And then the guy starts talking about how everything is a conspiracy and we're all commercial robots. We hear that dialogue in all of these other movies, and it's just so bland and so lame. The dialogue is one of the absolute worst things of this movie because it's just so incredibly forgettable and generic and dull. Like, there's like, the way these lines are written, they're just lines that are said in millions of other movies the exact same way. Like, about controlling destinies, or the guy saying, oh, I'm just a small town kid from blah blah blah. Like, it's so cringeworthy. And she keeps seeing things and knows who Charles Manson is, and that he has a cult following them. And I don't know, I honestly don't know a lot about the real life Sharon Tate before, before she was killed. I mean, I know she was an actress, and I know that she was in movies, but I don't know if she actually knew who Charles Manson was. Like you see in this movie and in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there's a scene where Sharon Tate encounters him, like, at their house, but she doesn't actually talk to him. The other guy wards him off. So I wonder if like, in real life, if she actually knew who he was. But in this movie, she says, like, to her friends, like, this guy Charlie is trying to get us, and he's got a cult that's coming to kill us. And I guess it makes sense in the fact that she's seeing visions that she knows, but it's like, did they even tell her? Like, I don't really know that she knew who he was, besides, like, I think somebody mentioned his name, but did she know that he had a cult and that it was coming after them? Just because she saw a girl look at her weird when she was walking outside, that makes it seem like there's a cult? I don't know, and I might have just blanked out because this movie is really boring too. Now, I guess without spoiling it, the only thing I think that, whether it's good or bad in people's eyes, I do appreciate the fact that this movie is fictionalized and in real life. Like, the ending is fictionalized to where it is where it's fictionalized, where these characters, I guess I'll just say it, I guess this will be a spoiler video, but Sharon Tate and all her friends survive. They kill the followers of Charles Manson, and they live. And I thought that was a creative idea, even though it wasn't executed great. It was okay, but like I did like and appreciate that fact that they did that they made it seem like they at least changed it up. They at least made this a different thing. Even though this movie isn't good, it's pretty bad. It's unfortunate that I have to say that, but man, and I hate saying that. I hate being negative about stuff, but man, I couldn't really find, besides the ending, I thought the ending was a different thing that they did with them surviving the killings. Instead, they killed off the people who were going to kill them because she had the visions and knew. It's not executed great, but at least it's a different idea. I did appreciate that. So this movie isn't good, but it has some ideas to it. It just is not very competently made at all. Like, the dialogue is terrible. The jump scares are terrible. The acting is average. There's really not much to say about the acting. And it's just, it relies way too much on things that to me make horror movies suck. The bad jump scares. The dialogue that is trying to be more elegant than it is, and it isn't. But besides that, this movie isn't good. But I can at least point out a couple little things that are okay about it. So I don't think it's the worst movie ever. And to me, this is just a forgettable mess. Like, it's a forgettable movie. Again, I hate being negative. I hate having these videos done, but man, I couldn't find a lot to like about this one. Besides, I think the ending was a different ending, but I didn't really like it. I just appreciated that they did something different for a alternate reality type of scenario. So that is my review on The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Since I spoiled it, I'm guessing you saw it, or if you haven't seen it, I wonder if people like this movie or not. The consensus on critic ratings, it's like at a 0%, and I think that is a little too harsh, because this movie is not the worst thing ever made. Like, the acting is average, the idea is fine, it's just not executed well. So critical ratings, this is considered like terrible, like especially on like Rotten Tomatoes, it's got like a 0% or whatever. And every person I've met that's a horror fan, or that I've talked to, that is one of my horror friends, they have said that this is terrible, and I can agree on a lot of aspects why, but to me, I think this is bad, but not like the worst thing ever made. It's just forgettable and dull. It's a dull movie. Very dull, very average, very forgettable. So that is my thoughts on The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Tell me down below what you think of the movie, and if you like this video, check my links in the description down below. And thank you guys so much for watching.